All right, let's construct a loan amortization schedule. Now, I know you're probably thinking, well, what is this? Okay, so basically, if you get a loan, so let's say like for a house or a car, a boat, anything, literally any loan, you can create a loan amortization schedule that will break down every payment, split between how much of that payment is going to principal or actually reducing the amount of loan, and how much is going to interest or the people who gave you the loan. Okay, so this assumes that you only ever make the minimum payment, first of all, and then it's just a schedule so you can see. Now, generally, if let's say that you're going to, let's just do this example. We're going to buy a house, a $120,000 home loan, 4% interest on 30 years. Now, when you have a 30-year loan, generally, the beginning payments, a lot of them, the payment goes to interest. And it doesn't really flip-flop till the majority of your payment reduces the actual loan payment until later. So let's look at this. So we're going to complete the first 3 months of this amortization table. But the first thing we have to do is actually figure out the payment. So let's do that. We've got a formula that we're going to use, and that is the monthly payment, P is the principal. So D is the monthly payment, 1 minus 1 plus R over N, that's in parentheses, raised to the negative N times T, all over R divided by N. Now, if you don't know what these things mean, it makes it a little bit difficult. So 120,000 is the P, that is the principal, the amount that you borrowed. R is the interest rate, so 4% would be R. T is 30, the time of the loan. And N is the number of times a year you make a payment, basically. So because we make home loan payments monthly, N is 12. So when I punch all of this into the formula, I get 120,000 equals D times 1 minus 1 plus 0.04 divided by 12 raised to the negative 12 times 30 power all over, 0.04 over 12. Now, when you do this, right, basically in your calculator, you want to simplify the right side. So taking view this piece first, raise it to the exponent, then take 1 minus that, divided by the 0.04 divided by 12. This is a whole big thing, right? But what it comes down to is that we end up with D equals $572.90. So that is the monthly payment on this loan. We're going to make it every month for 12 months for 30 years. If you need more work on that formula, there is a different video that talks through that formula in detail. But basically, what we want to do is we want to break this down now in the first month. So in the amortization table, we're saying, okay, if the first payment is $572.90, how much of that is going to interest? How much of that is going to reduce the value of my loan? So the first thing we need to do is figure out how much goes to interest. Now, if you think about credit cards, right, it's very, very similar in that we say, okay, in month number 1, my loan amount is $120,000. If my interest rate is 4% and we're making these payments monthly, so we're going to divide it by 12, this is going to tell me the interest in month 1, which in this case comes to $400. So in month 1, let's talk about, so this is payment number 1. The monthly payment is $572.90. How is that broken up? Well, it's broken up by interest, which we know is $400, and that means the debt reducing payment. If you make a payment of $572.90 and $400 of that goes to interest, that means your debt is only being reduced by $172.90. That means your new balance on your loan is that $120,000 you started with minus that $172.90. So we're talking $119,827.10. And this is where the depressing factor comes in, is that you just made a payment of $572.90 and your balance only reduced by $172.90. That really stinks. Okay, that's month number 1. Let's do this again. Now, in month number 2, just remember before we start that, we have a new balance. We're going to pay less interest in month number 2 because we owe less. Now, it's not a ton less, but it is less nonetheless. Yeah. So I'm going to take my 119, 827, 10, and again, multiply by my interest rate divided by 12. And now my interest for this month is $399.42. So when I go in and say, okay, this is now month number 2, I'm still making my minimum payment. Now, with that being said, if you buy a house and you make more than the minimum payment, all of that extra goes to reducing the balance. And if you reduce your balance, the less you owe, the less you're going to pay in interest. That's why it's kind of fun. If you can pay a little bit more, it will make a difference in your overall piece there. Okay, so debt reducing. Now I would take $572.90 and subtract $399.42. And now my debt is going to be reduced by $173.48. So you can see it's slightly different than month 1. Not much, but a little. So my new balance, now I'm going to take the 119, 827, 10, and I'm going to subtract the 173.48. And my new balance is $119,653.62. Again, it's just not going down very quickly. And this is how it works. So let's do one more month real quick. We have our new balance. So again, that's what we're going to use. $119,653.62 multiplied, by 4% divided by 12 gives us an interest of $398.85. So you can see every month, slowly, that interest amount goes down. That means the debt payment goes up. So here in month number 3, just move my screen over a little bit. Number 3, we still have the $572.90 as my payment. My interest is $398.85. That means my debt reducing is $174.05. Again, remember, these two values together will equal the $572.90. And then if I subtract what I owed at the beginning of that month minus my debt reduction, I will get $119,479.57. Now, if you do this over the course of 30 years, so 360 times, you would have this long spreadsheet with all of this information, and you could see when the interest and the debt reduction kind of flip-flop, if you will. Okay, so let's go ahead then, and if you want to cut off now, that's basically it. But I want to just talk real quick about some interesting facts about this, okay? So in those 3 months, you made 3 payments at $572.90. So your 3 payments altogether were $1,718.70. 3 house payments. The balance was reduced, okay? So you owed $120,000 to start. At the end of 3 months, you still owed $119,479.57, which means your balance was only reduced by $520.43. Less than 1 payment is how much your balance was reduced by, because your total interest that you paid in those 3 months was $1,198.27. This is why a lot of times when you buy a house, they say you've got to live in that house for about 5 years before it really makes sense to sell it, because at the beginning you pay so much in interest that it's just really sad. So just something to think about. And it's fun to look at an amortization table like solid over the entire thing to really see how it changes. And if we had more time, we could do, well, what happens if we would pay extra, right? Even if you would round that $572 just up to $600 and pay an extra $18-ish a month, how does that change the amount of interest that you pay over time? It's very, very interesting when you start looking into all those things. All right. Thanks, guys.